This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's edition of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Adam the Jock Strozinski. On today's show, a lot of injury news, some WWE, some AEW. We're going to get to all of that. Of course, we're going to take a look at a big-name free agent who could be coming available that WWE and AEW may both have interest in, as well as we just had 2 monster pay-per-views wrap up. So we got to dive into all of that, and then the fallout from all of that. And helping me do it, as always, he's the one. He's the only. He is the Doc, John Macaroon. What's up, cuz?
Cuz, give me a second. I'm about to go out and wear exploding shoes. And anybody that gets in my way, I'm going to just stand there for a second, give them a glare, and kick them in the shin and hope it explodes. Be like, dude, your fucking shoe exploded on my leg. Dude, I thought that was the spot of the week. I was like, what the fuck? They're doing kicks where their shit can explode. I think that takes it to a whole other level in regards to doing pyro with the gear that you're wearing. I thought that shit was cool in that match. And then to read that in AEW, they want to do more shit, but the arena was like, oh, hell no. Based on the shit you guys were doing last year, I think that we need to rein it in and not let you guys just go ape shit. So I just thought this week of wrestling really took a lot of storylines forward. You had the cinema of WWE and the bloodline. I just was really satisfied with this week of wrestling, and I can't wait to break it all down.
Yeah, I think it was a really, really good week of wrestling, especially coming off of 2 awesome pay-per-views. I think both pay-per-views were very, very good. I do think Night of Champions was much better than what we got from Double or Nothing. That being said, I do think Double or Nothing was good. I think some of those back-end matches of Double or Nothing really carried that pay-per-view. But let's start with Night of Champions, because there's a lot to break down here. There's a lot to get into. And again, I thought this was one of WWE's most complete and probably best pay-per-views that we've had in a very long time. And it started off with the World Heavyweight Championship match. This is the crowning for the new belt that WWE has. It included Seth Rollins, AJ Styles. Look, we both knew that this was going to be an awesome match. We both knew this was going to be fantastic to watch. And these guys did not disappoint. This was a great match. This was a clinic of a match. These guys were so impressive. How impressed were you with this match? Because I was blown away with it, even though I knew I shouldn't have been.
That's an opener? My God. I mean, they have chemistry. They've had chemistry before. That's what we expected. I'm so grateful that they were able to deliver a great match. And look, you knew going in, AJ Styles is going to be a solid person opposite of Seth Rollins, a worthy competitor, somebody that even if he won the match, there were people upset that AJ Styles didn't win the match. So that's all you can ask for from the opponent, which is the perfect opponent. And I think that it's really great that the match delivered. We expected it to deliver. And boy, that's what openers are supposed to do, is get the crowd hyped, and it was just spectacular.
Speaking of the crowd, I think the Saudi Arabia crowd, similar to that Puerto Rico crowd, I don't think maybe as much to the level of that Puerto Rico crowd, but they stayed hot all night long. They were fantastic. They did their part, and I thought they were great. So I do want to take that moment to kind of acknowledge them. After that match, we had the Raw Women's Championship match. This is where Asuka ends up defeating Bianca Belair to end her 420-day reign as champ. This was a little bit shocking. I don't think we had talked about this on last week's show. We talked about them possibly taking the belt off of Belair. It seemed like she was getting a little bit stale. At the Puerto Rico show, the fans were definitely not behind her. And it's been really this 50-50 mix where she's not getting the love she was once getting. So we discussed possibly a heel turn, possibly taking the title off her. Instead, they take the title off of her, which your second match of the night, you just crowned a new champion for an inaugural title, and now you're switching who the women's champion is. Look, at this point, you are throwing everything at the wall, and it is all sticking. This I think was a fantastic move. I hope that they do Asuka right. You remember when Asuka came up from NXT? She had that unbelievable streak. And then Vince put her into a program with Charlotte. And after that, Charlotte beat her, and she was kind of discarded. And she wasn't really utilized, I think, to her full potential. I hope Triple H can rekindle some of that fire that she had when she was in NXT and give us that on the main roster, because that Asuka was incredible. That Asuka was awesome. I hope he can do that. This, I think, was a great call. Get the belt off of Bianca. Let her do something different. Let her reinvent herself a little bit and let her come back fresher. I love this. I give this a thumbs up. Did you think it was the right call to take the belt off of Bianca?
Shocking. Yes, it is, because what were we expecting really for the last 3 years? The kind of way in which this Saudi relationship and overseas relationship has been viewed has just been glorified house shows. They want this character. They want this match. But I think after 2-3 years where there's no real significant storyline development, I think the Saudis caught out and said, hey, wait a minute. Our $25 million can go further every single year. Can you just get us something that potentially could be meaningful and long lasting? And with what happened on this show, they got their money's worth. Yeah, I thought it was great because of the intrigue, and I think Asuka's worthy of it. And you realize, man, time flies in regards to Bianca having the belt almost a year. So I think Asuka gets elevated. It was a great match, and the shock and surprise value, worth it alone.
Yep, I think it was the right time to pull the pin, and I thought this was fantastic the way it was done. Our next match was the SmackDown Women's Championship. This match got about 2 minutes, and that's being polite. Rhea Ripley absolutely destroyed Natalya to retain, thought it was smart booking, and thought it was a good move. We then had our Intercontinental Championship match where Gunther defeats Mustafa Ali to retain. I thought this was a good match. I thought Mustafa Ali did a lot of good stuff. Mustafa Ali got a lot of moves and got a lot of his stuff in, but I think the storytelling with Gunther was great because it just seemed to power him up. It just seemed to make him stronger as that match went on. Ends up beating Mustafa Ali with this just gigantic powerbomb. I thought it was a really, really good match. I thought it was cool to see Mustafa Ali get a lot of love from people of his ethnicity. I thought that was fantastic for him. I think he kind of needed that himself. As much as they might have needed it, I think he needed it a little bit more, and I thought it was really good to see. What did you think about the Gunther and Mustafa Ali match?
Gunther, baby. I love it. Yeah, we all knew that was going to be the case. It was crazy that Natalya got squashed, but hey, she got 2 minutes on her birthday. That's how WWE treats a heart.
That's messed up, dude. It was on her birthday. She was destroyed.
Literally, you're thinking there, like, for me, and I think you and I are the same, we do tend to think about things a little bit, maybe even too much. If I'm flying 15 hours, I know the check will be nice, but if I know potentially that I'm probably not going to have that much of a match, would I even do it? Would I fly to Saudi Arabia to get squashed, or to maybe even have my hopes dashed if I thought that the match was going to get 10 minutes and then you realize it's 2? You would just feel on the flight home so pissed off. Like, I literally flew halfway around the world and I can't even get 5 minutes? Like, not even 5 minutes. It's crazy. And so Natalya's a trooper, man. She's a pro. And you give her credit, and that's what these wrestlers got to deal with. But I thought that Gunther, man, I just can't wait to see him break the record. He is worthy of breaking Honky Tonk Man's record of having the longest reign as the Intercontinental Champion. And man, he's just, he did the work, man. He transformed his body. And we were talking about him a couple years ago, but not to this degree of what he could become. I know we started to say, okay, there's this character in NXT that's blowing up, and Kenny was on it, you were on it. But to see what he did actually now on the main roster, I don't know how much credit you get, because a lot of the characters don't get over in WWE. They get their character changed, their music changed. And so a lot of people end up getting kind of that, NXT curse. But Gunther, man, he's pushed through, and now in a year or two, main event worthy at the biggest level, he might be the guy maybe even that gets tabbed to take it from Roman or Seth.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. It's one of those things where if you paid attention to the indies, you knew he was really good on the indies. When he got put into NXT, he was really good in NXT. He then gets the call up, and then Vince kind of tinkers with it a little bit, and we were so upset when Vince tinkered with it. We're like, what are you doing? Just let this guy be this guy, because he is what he is, and he's great. And he took it. He rolled with it, and he's been able to sustain an awesome level. He has gotten himself into much better physical shape. He looks incredible, and I think what you're getting on screen has been awesome. The guy is intimidating. He is a force. And like you said, going to break Honky Tonk Man's record. And deservedly so. Deservedly so. It's going to be fantastic to watch him grow. There's been talks about possibly Gunther and Cody Rhodes maybe doing something at SummerSlam. At some point, those guys want to work together. Before that, though, Cody's got to get through Brock Lesnar. I didn't see this happening. I thought we were going to get another Cody win here, and we were just going to kind of allow Cody to move on from this feud, just kind of get going in another direction. It appears that we're going to have some long-term storytelling, though, and it looks like we're going to probably have a best of three. It looks like these guys are going to meet at least one more time because Brock Lesnar locks in the Kimura on Cody Rhodes. He passes out. Brock Lesnar wins via submission. I just want to acknowledge little things. If you go back and you watch this match, there's a part where Brock Lesnar is near the ropes, and he's got the Kimura on Cody. And they've got this shot of Cody sitting there, thriving in agony. It's little things like taking your fingernails and trying to scratch down the back of Brock Lesnar that just kind of sells the pain and the anguish. And it's little things like this that I think a lot of wrestlers miss. And I think this is one of the things that Cody Rhodes has done so well in WWE, and he did really, really well in AEW that I don't think he gets enough credit for. It's little nuanced things like that. Like, think about it. If you had your arm in what is essentially a submission, an MMA submission hold where they could break your elbow and break your shoulder, what would you do with your free hand? Your free hand, you would be either punching the ground or you'd be clawing at the back of the person, probably grabbing at the back of the person, trying to get them to release that. A lot of people don't do these things when they're in matches with Lesnar. Cody Rhodes did. I thought Cody Rhodes did a fantastic job selling for Brock Lesnar in this match. I never seen a long-term story coming out of this, but it appears that that's what we have. Did you see a long-term story coming from this, or did you kind of think this was going to be a one and done, maybe a two and done, and Cody gets to move on? Because that's where I thought we were headed, but it is not the direction that we're going now.
Yeah, no, it stinks. I wanted it to be done. I thought it was great that, they played on, and here's what's happening is that obviously they're establishing a narrative with Cody. He didn't tap out. He passed out from the pain. But I do think there was some criticism that he did receive in regards to kind of like hearkening back to Steve Austin, how they got him over. It wasn't the fact that he was bleeding, or it wasn't the fact that the way in which people say that why did Steve Austin get over? It was because you had the visual of the blood, and you had that visual of him writhing in pain and the agony and things like that. So it's not really original, but I get it. I get to see that, okay, well, the problem is it's overkill. Cody Rhodes topped it off. Like, we don't need to know that Cody Rhodes is tough. The dude wrestled a match in a cage with a torn pec. Yep. You need to really tell me that Cody Rhodes is tough?
Just show me those pictures of his purple tit. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Just every once in a while, purple tit. And I think it's overkill. Like, I know people have short attention spans, but they remember the purple tit. It's legendary. The legendary purple tit match will go down in history. So you don't need to prove that. So we're all thinking it could have been a different finish, but it's fine. I think that it's crazy that this is going to continue. But listen, all you can do if you're a performer is if you can take the critics' comments and still get over and still have people respecting the shit that you do and commenting in a great way, then it's all good for Cody Rhodes. So let's see how it goes. Now he's issued the open challenge. Let's see if Brock answers it. Do you think he'll answer it by Money in the Bank, cuz?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think that's kind of where you get the final nail in this coffin of this story. I think it should be at Money in the Bank. I think you should allow Cody to move into SummerSlam and allow us to see something different. And this is just my wishful thinking because I want to see something different at SummerSlam. I don't want to see this match per se. It'll be interesting to see what they do though, because again, the open challenge has been issued. And you've got a couple of big pay-per-views coming up. You've got SummerSlam in August, and then in July you've got Money in the Bank. So you've got two shows where you can work this in and get this taken care of. I think a lot will depend on what Brock Lesnar's schedule looks like or what he wants his schedule to look like. Because remember, Brock kind of gets to call his own shots. So we'll see what takes place. Now, shockingly, Trish Stratus ended up defeating Becky Lynch. Now, she did get a major assist from Zoe Starks. And I think this works. I like this, right? I've been coming on our show and I've been talking about Trish Stratus for a couple weeks, how I just don't get it, how she's just not as good as she once was. And maybe our view of women's wrestling has changed dramatically. But I don't feel like she's been carrying her end of this feud. I think this is a really nice way to introduce Zoe Starks. I've been high on Zoe Starks since she's been in NXT. I've liked Zoe Starks' look. I like what she can do in the ring. I think Zoe Starks has it. I think she's a little rough around the edges, and I think she needs to be shined up a little bit. If we can get her with somebody like a Trish Stratus, I think it can pay dividends for her long term. Look, she interferes with the match with Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch goes down. Trish now gets a heel faction, and I can see Lita and Becky challenging them two at SummerSlam. What do you think about that? Do you see long-term storyline coming out of this where you get Becky, who's going to come back from that injury where Trish took her out, and Trish now has her heel faction with Zoe Starks, and they can challenge at SummerSlam?
Oh, man. Yeah, I liked it. Me personally, I know people are down on Trish Stratus. I know people don't like the quality of her matches, and they think that maybe she was the representation of WWE, highlighting the body types and the features of a female wrestler that don't involve wrestling. I understand that, but I think that when you look at what this could potentially mean for Zoe Starks, and then you can maybe ease Trish Stratus into a managerial role, I think I love it. I think that obviously having Lita involved when she comes back, it stinks because Lita tends to get hurt a little bit. Life goes on and things like that, where now Trish is in the mix. And we've already seen Trish versus Lita quite a bit. I love the involvement with Zoe Starks, but it sucks because WWE's got to find a way to hide the wrestlers that are under the ring, because people take the picture because everybody wants to see the TV under the ring. Everybody knows now that there's a TV under the ring, which signals somebody's under there that's going to be involved in the show. They got to find a way to get the wrestlers under there from under the arena or some better way, because people are recognizing it. So we all knew something was going to happen. We didn't know when or who, but I love it. It has a chance to play out in a major way, and I think the biggest beneficiary is going to be Zoe Starks.
Yeah, I think so too. I think she stands a chance to really develop and blossom in front of us. It'll be really, really interesting. Now, this match was basically the appetizer for what was incredible. I don't have any other way to describe it. It was absolutely incredible. You had the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championship. You had Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn defeat Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa. The Usos joined in, and that was what turned the tide for Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. First off, Sami Zayn comes out in his Arab garb, and he speaks to the crowd in Arabic. It was an awesome moment. It was really, really touching. It was cool to witness that and to see that, and you could tell Sami Zayn loved it. The crowd loved it. It was a really special moment. I thought that was super sweet. That was how we're kicking this off. As the match unfolds, Jimmy and Jay join in. Jimmy and Jay start beating up Sami and Kevin, and then they go to super kick Sami Zayn. He ducks. They end up kicking Solo. Roman sees this. Roman gets up, gets in the ring. He ends up yelling at Jimmy, yells at Jay, pushes Jimmy in the face, turns to Jay, starts bad-mouthing Jay, tells him to get out of the ring. Jay's like, nah, man, we're with you. He's like, no more day one. Get out of here. As he turns around, bam, super kicked in the face. Jay does a great job of selling these conflicted emotions of like, what did you just do? And Jimmy, being a stud, says to him, I'm doing what you should have did a long time ago. Kicks him again in the face. It was great. Next thing you know, Roman's on the outside of the ring. Solo ends up taking the pin, and Kevin and Sami end up rolling on. This story has been so well done. Just when it was starting to get stale, they just livened this up. This has been absolutely incredible. And the thing that when I watched it, the thing that it reminded me of, I love mob movies. I love the Mafia. This has been a mob movie from the very, very beginning. And this mob movie had us believing that Roman Reigns was the main character. The entire time, the main character has been Jimmy and Jay. It has been Jimmy and Jay that have been the main characters of this story. And WWE has done a really good job of kind of misdirecting you and getting you to believe that Roman Reigns is the main character of this. He's not. He's the co-actor in this. He's secondary to what Jimmy and Jay are doing, what Jimmy and Jay are experiencing. and he's also the antagonist. They are the protagonist in this. This has been it's just been an incredible, and excuse language, it's been an incredible mindfuck to watch how this has played out because it has been so well done. It's been so well crafted. And like I said, this reminded me of a mob movie where you basically had two brothers you had one brother basically put the gun to the guy's head, pull the trigger, and the other brother's like, what did you just do? And he's like, what you should have did a long time ago, and then goes and makes sure the job is done by putting another bullet in the guy's head. That was Jimmy to Roman. I thought this was awesome. I thought this was epic. I was super hyped for this. I was pumped up. I watched this the next day. That's how good it was. I thought this was absolutely amazing. And then you can spin that into what takes place on SmackDown that we'll get into here in a few moments. But this was awesome. How shocked were you? How good has this been? What was your reaction? There's so much going on here. What's your reaction to all of this? Because I think it is so damn good. Best thing in wrestling right now.
This is cinema, baby. And it is what we're all looking for when we watch wrestling. Great stories, awesomeness in regards to, but again, it's kind of funny, but how many times is Jay going to have his fists down and crying like that? Because now we're going on the fourth and fifth time where he's standing to the side and he looks like he's going to have a tantrum and he's like, oh, it's like, okay, my man, you kind of got to react a little bit, and it's like he's on the verge of doing something. Is he going to pop? Is he going to snap? But right now we're getting the crying Jey Uso. Jimmy stepping up was great because he was obviously the target of the aggression of Roman Reigns. I just thought it was beautiful. And what made it so beautiful was the way in which the mics were picked up. Yeah. And Jimmy says to Jay, this is something that we should have did earlier. And then he just whacks Roman Reigns out of the ring. And remember, it didn't end the match. Then, obviously, Kevin got back in the ring and took care of it by, I think, pinning Solo. So, basically, the Usos cost Roman Reigns the ultimate prize, which is just amazing storytelling, which takes it to another level. At first, when Sami Zayn basically came out and said that my role in the Bloodline is kind of over, but in the end, he had such a big role. He accomplished his target. But again, it just harkens back to, could you imagine if they could have played this out at WrestleMania, where it would have been such an amazing thing where, like, I get it, the storyline is huge, but could you imagine the Usos costing Roman Reigns the title? I think then you could have sparked off even more of, meaningful, impactful rage from Roman Reigns, where you don't even have to involve the title. You just involve the rage and the betrayal. The ultimate betrayal is costing Roman Reigns the tag titles. It's not as impactful as naturally if the Bloodline would have ended at WrestleMania. And then Sami Zayn would have had the ultimate reward. But in the end, beautiful storytelling. When people say, hey, there's more to come, and you say it in advance and you deliver, beautiful. Beautiful all the way around. And it's the best storyline in any company, hands down, by a mile. And people are now just trying to catch up to tell a story with that much impact.
And this is the thing, right? This is what makes it difficult. You give us something like that, and you've done such a good job for so long with this entire story. How do you move this forward now? How do you build on this? Well, they did that on Friday night. You have Solo take out Jimmy. And look, I thought this was so well done. Thought this was absolutely great. You've got Jimmy. You basically have Roman Reigns. We're going to talk about his new belt, getting his new belt in the ring. We're going to talk about this here in a minute. But you got Roman getting his new belt in the ring. You've got the Usos come down. And Jimmy ends up flying off the handle for a second, but then catches himself and regains his composure and basically says, look, that's my brother, pointing to Solo. And he's like, you're my brother, speaking to Roman. And he's like, we can do this. Let's just do this. But we got to treat each other with respect. That's what this all boils down to. It's just respect at this point. We've got to treat each other with respect, and we've got to do this the right way. No more of this manipulating BS. We don't want any more of this. And Roman ends up grabbing the mic and gives it to Solo, and Solo's like, these are my brothers, and he stands on the side with the Usos. And you're like, all right, let's go. 3-on-1. This is where we're at. All right, cool. And then Roman comes in for a hug, and basically is like, nah, this isn't how we're doing it. And then Solo takes out Jimmy. And it tells you where where the loyalty lies. It's not so much that we're brothers. That's not where it's at. Solo is being manipulated and being controlled by Roman Reigns. And this is an awesome little nuanced part of the story. And him taking out his own blood, Solo taking out his own blood is absolutely fantastic. And again, Jimmy just looking conflicted, looking upset, just kind of selling it. I think you're going to, once you get that pop from Jay, not from Jimmy, Jimmy looking upset and conflicted. Once you get that pop from Jay, it's going to be awesome. Like the roof is going to blow. Once he makes that move against Roman, the roof is going to blow and it's going to be fantastic. What did you think of Solo being the guy to now put the spike into Jimmy's throat? Because I thought it was really, really good, man. It just adds another layer to it.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. The blessing of a star like Roman is the impact that it has on the people around him. He's a star maker, and people have started to notice when you work with Roman Reigns, something happens to your career. Solo, Jimmy, and Jay are now supremely at another level. Kevin Owens. Sammy too. That's five individuals that have directly benefited from working and having involvement with Roman Reigns. And now we're not even talking about Paul Heyman, who just has taken his managerial career in ring and what he's been able to do to a whole nother level. So spectacular, lovely. It has just been well worth it. And that's all you can do is say what you're going to do, deliver, and create stars. Solo's a star, man. A thumb to the chest has never been more impactful.
It's accurate.
in the wrestling business. But when he does it, shit, man, look out. Bad news is happening to you.
Yeah, that is absolutely accurate. So I think the big news that WWE was selling was we were getting a new title for Roman. And we had talked about this forever and a day. Like, what are you going to do with these two belts? You can't walk around and carry two belts all day. And it made telling stories weird. And it made things very difficult for just kind of moving parts of the company forward, especially when each brand is on a different network, and each network wants its own champion. Things get weird when TV money gets involved. So now what do you do? Because Roman's got both belts. And you were supposed to, we thought they were going to merge the belts. We thought it was going to become one belt. We were excited. We're like, all right, let's go back to it. One belt. That's all we want. One belt. Too many belts in WWE. Well, what they did was they ended up merging. They're retiring the Blue Universal Championship, and they are retiring what was the WWE Heavyweight Championship or World Championship, and now we have the WWE Undisputed Universal Heavyweight Championship. And it's a new belt. It's a lot of gold. I think it looks really good. I'm not a huge fan of the giant W. I like the subtle nuances of what Roman's belt or what Seth's belt looks like. But Roman gets this new belt. Was it the right call to merge these belts? And do you like the new belt? Because I think it's pretty sweet looking.
It is, but do you think it's too yellow? Like people have noticed and said that it's supposed to be gold,
yeah.
But it's kind of crazy. But I at first like it. I like the idea of it, but I don't think it looks gold enough. On camera, it kind of comes off. It does. I can see where the critics are saying, dude, why do you got a piss yellow belt? It's not exactly as refined as it needs to be. I like the concept, gold, but it needs to look gold because it does kind of shine off as piss yellow.
Yeah, I mean, it does have a different hue to it. I will say that it does not look like Seth's belt at all. But
right,
I like the fact. So I guess I like maybe the concept more than I like the execution. I like us having one belt. I don't like us having multiple championships that Paul Heyman has to lay across his chest every time he runs down to the ring and looks like he's about to drop one of them. I like having one belt. I like the idea of the belt. I like it being a gold belt. I think that is nice. That is, it's different, right? Like you couldn't go black because then you were honoring one belt over the other belt. You couldn't go blue because again, you're honoring one belt over the other belt. So what do we do? Let's just go a different color. Let's go gold. I think the execution might have been a little bit better, but overall, I'm giving it 2 thumbs up because I think it helps move us in the right direction. It moves us to a place that you and I wanted us to be maybe 6 months, maybe a year ago. I mean, I'd have to go back and listen to some of our older stuff, but it's been a while. We've been calling for one belt. We've been calling for get rid of these 2 belts. Let's just have one. And I think at the time, you and I only wanted one heavyweight championship belt for the whole entire company. But I get that You've got powerful networks at play who want champions because it helps sell tickets and it helps sell views. So I get it. I like where we've gone. I like us going back to this. I never really liked the blue SmackDown championship, the Universal Championship. I never really liked it being blue. I didn't really even like it being red. I think that it gets messy when you start mixing all these colors. Black is fine, but I like the fact that this one is gold. Might not be the right color gold, but overall, I'm giving it 2 thumbs up.
I agree, man. It's great. I think that, man, it's nice to have one belt. And look, the blessing is that, you know, Roman Reigns will make the belt look spectacular. And that's what it is that when he's holding it, he looks good, he looks strong, and everything is going to the way in which, you know, WWE wants. 1,000 days for Roman. I thought that it was classic that they showed CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, mentioned them. It was cool to see the highlight of everything that they went through the timeline. WWE has been known to do amazingly spectacular vignettes and packages, and I think that it was really special. Roman Reigns, the dude's a star, and he needs to be acknowledged for at least being able to carry the company and to do the job of being exclusive, elevating himself, taking himself to the next level, now having an Undertaker-like 25-minute entrance every time he comes to the ring. So, so he's at the level now, and now we just have to appreciate it. Let's see who he builds next.
Yeah, he's done a fantastic job. Somebody who's built themselves up and is completely over with the fans. And I think you and I both are in the same boat with how we feel about this guy, is LA Knight. LA Knight has been on this to the moon skyrocket, just embrace from the fans. Fans are loving him. Last week, WWE got called out because they piped in boos over the cheers that he was getting. When he was in Saudi Arabia, the fans were ballistic for him. LA Knight, the fans want him. They love him. Ends up winning a Money in the Bank match over Montez Ford on Friday night. I believe, and I think you do too, but I want to get your take on LA Knight. He needs to be pushed. This is a guy who, 1, has the look, 2, has the mic skills, and 3, he can move in the ring. He can work in the ring. He looks good. Guy is a 5-tool player. He really is. And he needs to get a push. He needs to be a guy who we believe is a challenger for Roman's belt. I think LA Knight has done a fantastic job. I think both of us have been a huge fan of him when he was in Impact. I loved him when he was in Impact. And then he goes to NXT, does a really nice job, and now he's on the main card, and he has this organic overage with the crowd, and it has been fantastic. It's been fun to watch. I think WWE may miss out if they don't push him soon. What are your thoughts on LA Knight and the crowd's reaction to him?
Yeah, the crowd loves him, man. You got to push him. He's the number 1 contender to win Money in the Bank. You got to do it. I think that, you know, it's been crazy to follow because obviously a friend of the podcast, Dennis Farrell, had a relationship with the former Eli Drake. And to listen to his podcast, to kind of now have him see him in NXT and then get up to the main roster, it's been weird because he's had he had that little lull in his career where things weren't going his way, where he was kind of in that middle zone. And now he comes to WWE. And his personality just showcased. I think the level of experience to have him now in his early 40s, being somebody that can handle this and understand personality development and character development. He's 40 years old now, the former Eli Drake. It's crazy. It's just crazy to have a little bit of a piece of the LA Knight character. Yeah, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think that he's got the gimmick, man. He's got it. And it's cool to see, the crowd do their thing, and LA Knight's going to capitalize because why? He figured out over his time and experiences how to captivate an audience, and that's how you print money in your wrestling career.
Yeah, overall, I thought SmackDown was a much better show than Raw. I thought this was a fantastic pay-per-view. We go to calling the card. I get the point on this one. I ended up getting one more right than you. We then had AEW's Double or Nothing. So that was Saturday. This is now Sunday. And we kick AEW's Double or Nothing off with the 6-man buy-in. We had the Hardys and Hook defeat Ethan Page and the Guns. After that, we had a 21-man blackjack battle royal for the AEW International Championship. surprisingly too, I think both of us, Orange Cassidy outlasts 20 other dudes. I think we both thought this, if you're going to take it off of him, this would be the time to take the belt off of him. 20 other guys in the ring. He can make it to the final 2, final 3. Instead, they don't. They set up this angle with Swerve. It'll be interesting to kind of see where we go from here. Now, at this point, I can say that I felt like the show was kind of sputtering along. And the wheels kind of fall off for a minute with this next match. This was a big, hyped up match. This was a match that everybody wanted to see. We had the unsanctioned match between Adam Cole, who defeated Chris Jericho. Now, the way he defeated Chris Jericho was via a referee stoppage. Mind you, it's an unsanctioned match. It being an unsanctioned match means that this match is going to be so violent that the company will not be held liable for whatever happens, and nothing but basically death or the man not being able to answer a 10 count will stop this match. Instead, what we get is we get a referee stoppage as Adam Cole is on top of Chris Jericho, grounding and pounding him. This just didn't make sense. It did not make sense, and I don't think it worked. And you could tell the crowd was really upset. The crowd ended up booing at the end of this match. Was this just bad booking? Was this just too many ideas maybe got in the way? Was the referee stoppage the right call? Because I think it was the wrong call, and I feel like it really did a disservice to what was at least 85% of this match was really, really good. I feel like the ending really left a bitter taste in your mouth.
Yeah, it was a dud. We thought this would be similar to the level of AJ Styles and Seth Rollins. You got great characters in Adam Cole and Chris Jericho. The problem is now when we look at all this, you got to deliver, and they didn't. And the crowd shit on it. They didn't like it. Nobody liked it online. And I think it was one of those rare occasions where the hype was really high and the match really didn't live up to it. Fucking A, dude. Why are you going to call it an unsanctioned match? Like, what the fuck, dude? It's a match. It made no sense. It's overbooked. That's the definition of what the fuck are we doing here? Like, have a plan. Don't need to change it. Have your plan executed. Have a good match. And maybe you realize that sometimes in wrestling, you have a producer and you have two talents and you put all the opinions together and you get dog shit. It happens. And hopefully they get another opportunity to correct it. Only way to go is up. But that match was shit. And the ending was shit. And the wrestling community hated it top to bottom. And it put a little damper in the pay-per-view.
Yeah, this at this point, I think we are probably at the low end of the pay-per-view. Now, I do think it starts to get picked up a little bit. And I think we have the AEW Tag Team Championship match. You've got FTR who ends up defeating Team TNA, Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal, to retain their belts. Now, you talked about overbooked. I feel like this match was a little bit overbooked. This was a Jeff Jarrett match, though, right? It was guitars. There was Karen Jarrett. There was a whole lot that was going on in this match that I don't necessarily think needed to be there. But I think it got the match over. But I feel like when you watch an FTR match, you know what you're getting, right? That being said, we should know when we watch a Jeff Jarrett match, we should know what we're getting too. To me, this really felt like Jeff Jarrett was like, look, we've got to have all these spots. We've got to do all this stuff. Let's try to shoehorn all this stuff in here and let's make this work. And FTR was like, all right, I guess. And it just felt like it was a little bit too much. But what I can say is coming off of the Adam Cole and Chris Jericho match, you really had no other direction but up. So this starts to kind of ratchet the show back up, starts to get the show moving in the right direction. What did you make of the tag team match? Did it feel a little too overbooked to you? Was there a little bit too much gimmicky stuff in this match that kind of distracted and took away from it for you?
Yeah, it was kind of one of the matches I had in the background. You know, what did you think of the way it was finished? Did the right team go over?
Yeah, I think so. I think you keep the belts on FTR. I think that is probably the best case scenario. Like those guys are fantastic, right? And the way that this is now going to get spun off, they're going to go and they're going to do something. You got to remember, we've got a pay-per-view coming up in 20 some days. We've got Forbidden Door. So this is going to get spun off. We're going to end up having a three-way. It's going to be FTR and Ricky Starks versus Bullet Club Gold. They'll bring in an old Bullet Club member from New Japan, and that's how that match is going to go. I think for what you were looking to do, I think this works because now what you can do is you can take your tag team champions and that can get spun off into something else with Bullet Club. And look, you're going to have this relationship with New Japan. So FTR can go over to Japan and can have a couple matches there. You can have guys from New Japan coming over here having matches with FTR. I think it allows you some options when it comes to booking. I don't think Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal are necessarily going to sell tickets over in New Japan, but I think FTR will. So I think it was the right call from a booking standpoint, for a business standpoint. And honestly, I just think FTR is better than Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal at this point. To me, Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal are super mid, right? Like super mid-card guys. I feel like FTR are notches above them. So it seems to only make sense that FTR retains. What about for you? Do you think it was the right call for those guys to keep the belts?
Yeah.
Or would you like to see them
they need it for a long time. FTR is over, and they need to establish the tag team division further.
Yeah, I agree with you. The one thing that AEW had at its disposal was it had one of the best tag team divisions in all of wrestling. So you kind of got to get back to that. You got to kind of play on that. Also, with Collision coming, FTR are CM Punk guys. You'll see them a lot on AEW Collision because they are CM Punk guys. CM Punk was announced this week that he will be back and he will be at AEW Collision's debut show on June 17th. So there's a lot of background stuff that's going on here that makes this the right decision. We had the TNT Championship. We had Wardlow defeat Christian Cage. After that, we had the AEW's Women's Championship, where Toni Storm ends up defeating Jamie Hayter to win the title. Now, you and I had talked about this. We had talked about the injury to Jamie Hayter before the match and how the Outcast could play a role, and all that basically came to fruition. I think this was the best booking of the night to this point. You have to realize what you were working with, right? You had Jamie Hayter, who is going to be out of action for a little bit. She has an undisclosed injury. We're not sure what it is. But she obviously not healthy enough to go, not healthy enough to really get in the ring and really wrestle. So what do? You got to book around it. So you have her getting beat up in the back. You have her getting drugged down to the ring. You have her getting continuously worked over by the Outcast. You end up having Britt Baker and Sheeta come out. And then you have this mini brawl. You have Toni Storm pull Hayter away from the mini brawl and finish her off in the ring. You put the belt on Storm, and now you're able to move on with a champion who can actually fight, because Jamie Hayter at this point is not healthy enough to fight. We should have been a little bit smarter here. We should have picked Toni Storm because we knew Jamie Hayter was dealing with an injury. I don't think we realized that the injury was as severe as it was. I think this was a really smart booking job. I think they did this to the best of their ability with the deck that they were handed. Now, I think the real question that comes down to it is, do you like Toni Storm as the two-time champ? And I hope that this run that she has is better than the last run that she had. And I know that she was really upset because it was the interim championship and she hated the word interim, and like that seemed to really stick in her craw, and I don't understand why, but it's what it is. And that kind of played out in the press conference that came up after. I think she can do a very good job. I liked what we got on Dynamite, where she was in the back, she was cutting a promo, and she was basically just kind of talking about herself, and the other two were like, she's such a humble champion, she's such a great fighting champion. I like the way that's going to play out. I think that could be really, really good. They have a chance here to do something with Toni Storm that could be fun, and my fingers are crossed that they get it done. Do you like the way this was booked, and do you like that Toni Storm is now your two-time women's champion?
Yeah, she's great. I love to see her elevated. I think the women's division is steadily taking that little next step forward. More intrigue, better matches, more time. So I thought it was quality all the way around. And you're right, maybe we did get it wrong, but I think it was still quality finish and building intrigue for what we got in the future.
Yeah, I think it gives us a chance to do a couple of things moving forward. We then had the Trios Championship. The House of Black defeated the Acclaim and Daddy Ass to retain. I think the best spot of the night was Matt Caster rapping and dropping a line about Buddy Matthews getting cucked by a kid named Dominic. I thought that was great. We then had the TBS Championship match, and this was a really good women's match. You had Jade beat Taya Valkyrie, and it was close. There was a point where Taya Valkyrie ends up hitting her finishing move, and she gets a very close near fall. The whole crowd was on the edge of their seat. In the end, Jade beats her, but in their hubris, they end up lying out an open challenge, and Chris Statlander comes out, cleans up, and wins the TBS championship. I love this. This was the highlight for me. This was, at this moment in time, this pay-per-view went from being the shits to really getting good now. Really getting good. I'm a huge fan of Chris Statlander. I thought this was awesome. I'm super excited she's back, and I think this helps the women's division. It's somebody else. The thing that they really have to do that I don't think Jade did a good enough job with is with that TBS championship, you got to help elevate it. You've got to take on actual contenders. Like, you need to fight somebody like a Britt Baker. You need to fight somebody like a Sheeta. Jade really didn't have that. It was a lot of like the low card or the mid card people that she would just continuously cycle through. And it was cool because similar to what we said on our show, like once she gets to 60, she's going to drop that belt. I miscounted. I thought she was going to be at 60 going into this match against Taya Valkyrie. That's why she was going to lose it. Instead, she beats Taya Valkyrie for her 60th win, and then then Chris Statlander ends up beating her to make her 60-1. I thought it's good booking. Jade's going to go away for a while. She'll come back, reinvent herself. I think this is awesome for Chris Statlander. I think overall for the women's division, I think this is really, really good. What do you think about Chris Statlander coming back? What did you think about this match? Because this might have been one of Jade's best matches that she's ever had.
I agree 100%. I think that it was great to see Swerve, and it was really cool to have everything go down and a little bit of a swerve. So I think that's good. So I thought that maybe you could have taken Jade into a different level with keeping her title reign, but I think that Statlander coming back was great, and now you can kind of have Jade on the chase, or maybe even get to the next level and go for a different title. So it's a great opportunity for all involved.
Yep, it'll be interesting to kind of see where they end up going. Chris Statlander ends up having a match on Dynamite. She got beat up for most of it, but she gets the win. It'll be interesting to see how they end up booking her going forward. Something that I thought was great and fantastically booked. The four-way pillars match, I think, redefines what four-way wrestling could look like. Usually you and I are not huge fans of triple threat matches. We're not huge fans of fatal four-ways because it's a lot of two guys wrestling, and then there's a guy or there's two guys kind of on the side waiting to do their move or get their stuff in. In this, you had all of these guys using each other to do moves to everybody else. I thought this was a fantastically booked match. There was a point where you had all four guys in the middle of the ring doing submission moves to each other. There were points where you had all four guys covering each other for pins. There were times in this match where you had two guys on the outside who were brawling, and you had somebody else get thrown over into them, and then you had somebody else come flying over top, landing on them. It was a fantastically booked match that was so fast-paced and so entertaining. And much like his elbow pad said, Max is the best pillar of them all. He ends up retaining. What did you think about this? Do you think this match might help revolutionize the way fatal four-way matches are put together? Because I was blown away and astounded at how involved everybody was throughout this entire match.
Yeah, it was crazy, right? It was, man, it was fun. It was really cool to see. I think the anticipation was there. Everybody wanted to see what was going to take place. I really enjoyed the match. It's just entertaining because you understand what's going on. So we'll see what happens, and we'll see how the future lies for the Blackpool Combat Club and the Elite. I thought everybody held their own. They all got their shit in. While I thought the Elite maybe would get over, yep. There's something about Don Callis and the experience that he has that makes it fucking awesome. And then Takeshita, I thought was awesome in regards to, the way in which he understood to stand in the ring and act accordingly. So I was impressed by everything that went down. Takeshita being a heel, what do you think?
Yeah, I think this is awesome, right? I feel like Takeshita, and so they come out on Dynamite, and I feel like he feels like he's a monster star. Like he feels like he is on Okada level stardom here in AEW. Like that's what I feel about this guy. And whether that's him being with Don Callis, whether that's the way he carries himself, you and I have been a huge fan of this guy for a while. And I think what happened with Anarchy in the arena, I think what happened on Dynamite just furthers him, just helps push him up a little bit more. I think he is going to be fantastic, and he feels absolutely awesome. I'm impressed by him in so many ways. And then working with Don Callis, I think it really helps add that layer of credibility to it, right? I think the one issue I have with this storyline between Don Callis and the Elite, and now you're working in the Blackpool Combat Club, again, we still don't really have the exact answer why Don Callis needed to turn on Kenny Omega. To me, what it feels like is Don Callis and Kenny Omega knew that this had to change, right? Knew it was over. But they still haven't quite figured out how to end this on screen. Like the storytelling of this, they haven't quite put the pieces together to finish this. What I do like about it, though, is every week there's a little bit more that you're getting, right? You're kind of laying these bricks down on the road as we kind of move down it. And I think by the time it's all said and done, we'll have a better understanding of what really soured in this relationship, and that'll be great. At this moment in time, I believe Kenny Omega is over in Japan doing some stuff with New Japan. He mentioned possibly bringing two of his friends over from New Japan. So that would probably be Okada, and that would be his Golden Lovers tag team partner. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what takes place, and you could see these things possibly happening at Forbidden Door, maybe at Blood and Guts. So we've got some stuff on the horizon for this feud, for this story, which makes it super interesting. Now, just as high as I am on Takeshita feeling like a star, I feel like Jay White no longer feels as important as he did when he was in New Japan, and I don't know if you feel the same way. I just kind of feel like at this moment in time, as good as Jay White is, he feels super mid-card. And I don't know, do you feel that way? Am I kind of out on an island all by myself? Just when I was watching him in the ring on Dynamite on Wednesday, I was just kind of like, you don't feel as important as you once did to me.
Exactly. It's a star, man. Jay White is a star, but again, they're kind of taking the approach that he's not in the mix with the others. But it's up to him now to make the matches special and to handle the things that he's got to handle. But Jay White is a bona fide star, and I just think sometimes when these characters, it just feels like sometimes maybe there's this now kind of hidden code that outsiders kind of got to come in and maybe prove themselves more. You know what I mean? Like AJ Styles didn't just come right in and, come in for the title. Very rarely, which it really makes it when you think about it. Chris Jericho's first opportunity in the WWE ring was with The Rock, which is crazy, the amount of respect that the WWE had for Jericho to put him in the ring with that level of talent. But, AJ Styles comes in the Rumble across from Roman Reigns, but he starts a feud with Chris Jericho. He doesn't come in right away for the title. And, you and I would have no problem doing that. Oh, you're Jay White? Boom, you're coming in for the TNT title. Your first thing is not with Ricky Starks, but I understand completely where they're coming from. But now it's up to Jay White. Get your shit over. He'll emerge, bro. Don't worry. He'll be fine.
Yeah, I think at some point he'll be fine, but I don't know. Just something I noticed. I was just wondering if anybody else noticed it. With the Double or Nothing pay-per-view, you got the Jay Cargill pick right. So you get the point. You maintain a 4-3 point lead in the Calling the Card. I won Night of Champions. You won Double or Nothing. It was a very good weekend for us. It's been a very good week of wrestling. What was your show of the week? What should somebody watch if they have just a limited amount of time and they can only take one show in? Which one is it? Man,
that's tough, man. It's going to be between Dynamite and SmackDown. I thought Dynamite did a good job overall, top to bottom. I look at it and I say, still, with everything that went down, Roman Reigns deserves everything that he gets, and I think SmackDown was fast-paced. I thought Sheamus and Austin Theory deserved love and credit for what they're starting to do. So SmackDown for me is the show of the week.
Yeah, I'm going to give it to SmackDown as well. Pretty much everything you said. I just thought it was a great show. I thought it was really well done, especially coming off of what we had at Night of Champions. I thought they did a great job of adding yet another layer to the story with the Bloodline. So I'm going to go with SmackDown for my show of the week as well. So if you got some time, check that one out. Would you like some news and notes before we get out of here?
Hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes. What made your list?
So major congratulations to WWE star Alexa Bliss and her husband Ryan Cabrera. On Tuesday, the couple announced that they were expecting their first child. Bliss has already shot down rumors that her WWE career is over when she replied to a fan saying, "I'll be back." Bliss said in an interview regarding her return, "WWE extended my contract, so it's just basically come back when I'm ready. Probably a month after the baby, I'll start probably getting back into the gym and getting ready to see what my in-ring return looks like." With the pregnancy announcement, we can expect Bliss to be sidelined for close to a year, maybe a little bit more, as she works her way back in. Now, some injury news on this WWE big man. Per PW Insider, Braun Strowman is currently out of action with an injury. Strowman is currently listed on the company's disabled list and is not expected to be back anytime soon. Now, Strowman posted on his Instagram on Friday that he had neck surgery and vowed to be back. Strowman had suffered a concussion on SmackDown back in April, but he was cleared to return to the ring a week later. After that, he ended up getting injured, and that's why we haven't seen him on TV and why you've seen Ricochet going it alone. Some injury news on the AEW front. AEW could be in line to get 2 major players back from the IR. Pac could be making a return soon. Pac was last seen on AEW television during the World Trios Best of 7 series that ended in January of 2023 with a victory for the Elite. According to Dave Meltzer, Pac has been out of action due to getting his nose fixed, and he was still wrestling on after it was injured to complete the Best of 7 series. If you remember in that Best of 7 series, he started wearing the Rip Hamilton mask to protect his nose. Also, one half of Proud and Powerful could be back. On the June 29th, 2022 Blood and Guts episode of AEW Dynamite, we were there. Santana attacked Daniel Garcia only to land awkwardly and immediately fall to the ground in pain. Tony Khan would later confirm that he had suffered a knee injury as he tore his ACL. Dave Meltzer had addressed Santana's return to AEW, stating that Santana is going to be ready to return soon. It was also revealed that around that same time as that knee injury, the relationship between Santana and his tag team partner Ortiz was incredibly rocky. Meltzer noted that he's not sure where Santana will fit into the current landscape of AEW, citing the falling out between Santana and Ortiz. And finally, a big name from Impact may become a free agent very soon. Per Fightful Select, the Impact contract of Moose is set to expire in June. Moose notably signed a lucrative contract extension in 2021 ahead of his previous deal with the company expiring. Ahead of his potential free agency, Moose hinted that WWE would show interest in him. He later confirmed that he had received offers from both WWE and AEW ahead of him resigning with Impact Wrestling. Now, all 3 companies are expected to be a player for him. It'll be interesting to see where Moose ends up landing. That's going to do it for this week's wrestling news and notes, my brother.
Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter, the Jock, at Adam R. STROZ. Amazing takes in wrestling. Definitely spent his Memorial Day getting crunked and watching pay-per-views in his palatial estate. I mean, not only does Cuz have a palatial backyard, he now busts open a 200-foot projection screen, sits there with 5 drinks in hand, and is like, I am taking in this pay-per-view, Doc.
I was liquored up.
Make sure you're on the same level I am. I'm like, bro, where's the invite? I'm like, I would like a 200-foot palatial estate as well. My backyard is filled with kid stuff. So Jock is invested on his holiday, making sure that we bring you the best content in professional wrestling. We appreciate the banter, those that love it. We appreciate the opportunity to be part of the what's now called the IWC, the Internet Wrestling Community. And it's very great that you guys embrace us and we can have a good time and good laughs. Cuz that was a great breakdown. I can't wait to see the future of how now AEW and WWE handle it. Let's see, Cuz, if WWE allows AEW into other buildings based on some reports that WWE is sneaking around and putting in requests for AEW. Does Tony Khan put in some of his own requests moving forward? How do things move forward with the media that is covering professional wrestling and what comes out? It's always a good time. The IWC is blowing up, baby, with big time media personalities and lots of wrestling coverage, TV deals, lots of wrestlers getting their, opportunities to branch out into mainstream shit. It's a good time, baby. And one last thing, happy birthday to the phenomenal AJ Styles. And have to put out there, maybe to manifest it, if WWE indeed does have a writing position open, maybe, stay tuned, maybe we'll start to get our shit over with a potential writer that gets a job. I'm not sure yet. I got to do some digging. I got to get to my source and find out if there's a potential application that will be filed. But that would be funny as fuck if a close personal friend of this podcast network ever ends up actually finally, instead of just talking shit, actually writing shit. It would be the best ever to have an inside source at WWE. Stay tuned. Let's see what happens. Thanks, everybody. I look forward to next week for the latest and greatest edition of the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast.